Live here.
Right.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everybody. I'm Rebecca Petras at the Dry Eye Foundation in Paulsbo, Washington. And this is Aidan Moore. I think most of you know. So today is our first Dry Eye Foundation live session. This is a new weekly program we're running. We're really excited to have a new platform to just keep our community up to date about everything from what we're doing here at the foundation, programs, conferences we've been to, like when we just came back from, new patient resources on our various sites, and of course our support group schedules and our helpline updates. Then also things like what's going on in the dry eye world, new treatments and technologies in development, clinical trials you might want to participate in, recent drug and device approvals. Bottom line, there is just so much going on this year. We want to do a better job of keeping everybody in the loop about it and pulling more people into the conversation. So first, for anyone who is new to us, I would encourage you to visit dryeyefoundation.org to learn more about us. We created the organization in 2018, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit. This organization is the culmination of work I've been doing for a very long time before that, about 20 years. From time to time during these live sessions, we may be sharing some of our back history in there when things come up. So today is going to be mostly just about kind of an introduction to what these sessions will be about, and then sharing from the last several days that Aidan and I were at the ARVO Ophthalmology Conference down in Denver. So about the Dry Eye Foundation's programs and resources, we have three main areas. And our plan for this time, one of the things we'll be doing is to just pick one thing within one of those areas each week and do kind of a deep dive and share more about it, most recent updates and so on. So one of those three areas is research. Many of you know we conducted a huge survey in kind of late 2019 to early 2021, and we're really excited about starting to share those results. So starting next week, we're going to be picking one area and sharing some of the data from the survey, and we'll just be picking up new things on different topics within the life of dry eye disease each week. If you're curious and you want a little preview, you can go to mydryeyedata.org and poke around and see if you find anything that you're particularly interested in. So the research is one area. Within research, we're also working on some collaborative projects, working with other organizations on getting more research done in areas that we all care about lots. So second big area for us is community resources. And our most well-known part of that really is the Zoom support groups, which we have quite a few of now on both general and some specific disease topics. So have a look if you're new to that at dryeyefoundation.org under the, I forget which menu, Aidan, but it says calendar under there somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I am not on the site either. Yeah.
It's the first menu item on the left, and then under that is the calendar that's got our full schedule of things. So the support groups are one way to connect. Another is Dry Eye Buddies. This is not a formalized program, but a lot of times there is somebody who just needs to keep in touch with somebody with some kind of regularity, just kind of some advice and support and so on. People find each other without our help, of course, all the time on social media, but sometimes we can step in and help connect people too. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask if you've got that need. Then another not very well-known thing here is our Dry Eye Helpline. When somebody's just really struggling and they need some help to have their whole story heard, and some experienced help with kind of pinpointing some areas that to help just troubleshoot next steps, whether that's navigating issues of getting the right medical care, navigating employment, navigating relationship things, or finding more resources and so forth. We're really happy to help in that way. So our just calling our regular 800 number can get you connected with the helpline. There's also a form to fill out online. So that's our community services area. And then the third is education. And that's everything from our educational websites for fellow patients, which is really where we got started with the Dry Eye Zone site a really long time ago, like in 2005. There's that. Then there's also increasingly just behind the scenes work with companies and organizations working on educating folks in the industry on some of our needs, and also educating providers on some of the special needs of our community. So like I said, we'll be doing a deep dive on a few of those areas from time to time in our Friday live sessions. Then what we also want to use this time for is just running through headlines of dry eye news. There's so much that goes on, and I see it in my feed every day, new studies that are published, and said things like new drug approvals. There's just lots of stuff going on. I used to blog about studies going on all the time, and I just can't anymore. I always think I'll get to it, but I finally accepted that I can't do what some of the things I used to do. It's partly just because of where my eyes are at right now. I only have so much comfortable vision time in the day. So being able to do this verbally on our live sessions, I'm really looking forward to just kind of running through all the new things, keeping people up to speed. Another thing we want to be tackling on Fridays is just pick an issue. And this could be any issue facing our dry eye community. Is it the cost of over-the-counter products? Is it the difficulty of getting a detailed diagnosis? Is it any number of things? If there is something that you would like us to chew on and talk about, or something you'd like to come and join in a conversation on, by all means, let us know. Send us your questions. What do you want us to talk about and engage with? Let us know. Let's see. Last, Aidan and I, like I said, went to ARVO this past week. We were there from Sunday through Wednesday, and boy, was that a really packed time, and we want to share some highlights from that. I'm going to hand this over to Aidan. I think this was your first ophthalmology conference, and I know we had just lots of fun there. So take it away.
Yeah, we did everything from some educational sessions to meetings with doctors and industry, and lots of time to work in a little room kind of away from everything, and to talk about some of the projects and topics that we've been focusing on, Rebecca and I, for the foundation. I really appreciated the meetings we had that, you know, were not scheduled at all. I guess sort of came in with one plan and expectation, and every conversation that we had was just couldn't have imagined before we'd left. So that was really, really fun. I felt like we made some good contacts and learned a lot and thought through a lot. I think I left out one of the biggest parts of the conference was just the poster and exhibit hall. Just by nature of the way that posters were organized, we literally walked by each one of them to look at the title and see if it was something that would be relevant for what we're doing at the foundation. We talked to some of the poster presenters. I mean, notably, there was one about bacterial resistance for, I don't know, eye culture. I mean, it's like they found antibiotic resistant bacteria from eye infections, and the kind of the prevalence of that.
That was a really worrying one.
Yeah.
The sorts of percentages that they were quoting as having become resistant. Yeah, that was a new one to me for sure.
Always keratoconus and some scleral lens topics that we saw. There was some interesting kind of demographic research out there as well. I mean, from kind of health outcomes to zip code, patient preference for educational media. So there was one study that compared visual acuity to preferred media type. So 2020 patients were, I guess, sort of fine with everything. In the end, anyone with any visual acuity had a high preference for video resources, which kind of matches what we've known and what we're doing right now, but led to different thoughts about that. Multimedia. It's cool to see what people are studying out there. And wow, we did a lot of research on some of the eye drop technology that's out there. We talked to some manufacturers, and I learned so much
The
about
bottles.
these little bottles. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny.
That was really interesting. A lot of that was new to me. So that when thinking back when I first started the dry eye zone, and preservative-free eye drops in general were pretty new. There just weren't that many, and those single-use vials were a pretty big deal. And over the years, those became more the norm. And so everybody talks about preservative-free drops, and they were all in the single-use vials. And then gradually we started migrating into more of those, hold that one up again, in only bottles.
Yep.
Multi-dose preservative-free bottles, which I've always been a big fan of, because to me, they just seem more economical and handier. You can just get more out of them than your vials. But now we were learning, what goes into making those bottles safe? How exactly do they prevent the contents of the bottle from getting contaminated? And how do they even keep like the top of the bottle safe when you're squeezing stuff out? It's getting wet. You might be touching it to your eyelashes. It's going to get coated with stuff, right? But what technologies they have to keep that safe as well. Really interesting. For me, the posters and the exhibits, one of the things I love about ARVO particularly is the balance. You walk into this enormous hall, right? And at any other major conference, you've got acres and acres of companies with their big displays and booths and things. And somewhere else, there's going to be poster sessions. Here, it's this enormous hall. They've got maybe a third of it is commercial. And on either side are these enormous areas for the scientific posters. So it's just a very feels like a very science dominated event. So that's lots of fun. Let's see, a couple of fun things in the exhibits that there were, though. Somebody had brought a device for treating neuropathic corneal pain, or for addressing corneal pain. Fascinating looking thing. I don't think I got a picture, or even we brought something, but anyway, they were there trying to find research partners in the US to study it, and planning to keep in touch with them. I'm hoping that they did find, or do soon find, a partner, because we'd sure like to see a clinical trial going where some people in our community could try out what they've got to share there. Let's see. Made a good friend at a company called Dompay. They're the ones that do the Oxervate drug for neurotrophic keratitis. That's been out for a few years. I know a lot of people amongst you all have been on that, but they have some new clinical trials going as well, for Sjogren's patients. And that kind of among other things, prompted some thoughts about us putting together some more compact resources on the site to show what are all of the kind of clinical trials going on right now that may be of interest to our community. Because it can be hard to just fish through things on the clinicaltrials.gov site. There's just so much. It's hard to know kind of what's what. So we may be working on that a little bit. Let's see. We had a lot of fun meeting with the new director of an organization called Never. It's NAEVR. They do, among other things, they lobby Congress for research dollars for the National Eye Institute. And we just had so much fun talking and brainstorming about some things that we can work collaboratively on. So looking forward to some follow-up from that. Let's see. I know I had one or two other things I wanted to touch on. Aiden, anything more you wanted to share from the event?
I think I finally remembered the story of my impressions. We had originally just considered not going because there weren't that many dry eye topics on the schedule from the actual speakers. So I think that's kind of where my expectations were, that, maybe it would just be, time to get away from the office and work together. But there was a lot there between the meetings that we had that I just, didn't expect at all, because the schedule, I mean, there were days when we didn't really go to any events or anything and just hung out in the posters, and yeah, so I think I finally put my finger on why I was so surprised.
For me, it was, we talked about this once before. I was relieved to not go with a really packed agenda because so many things come up. Yeah, we were invited to a dinner towards
Right.
the end. That was a lot of fun. I had somebody with pretty much the latest wavefront technology scan my eyes with and without my scleral lenses, learned lots of stuff there. Really exciting. One session rather at the meeting that we enjoyed was a session, was that Monday? I can't remember when it was, on regenerative medicine. So stem cell everything. And this has got to have been one of the most popular sessions at the whole of ARVO, because it's just the up and coming stuff, things about, how to, things with potential for some major repairs to the back of the eye and saving people's vision. It's exciting stuff. One of the things that came up in that session, and most of that, by the way, was not oriented around anything at the front of the eye, including dry eye disease or corneal pain. It was most all back of the eye stuff, but they did say that there is increasing work that is being done in regenerative medicine for the front of the eye. But one of the things that came up was that while all these people presenting about these things, they're doing hardcore research into things that take years to develop, years to test for safety and efficacy, and eventually get approved, hopefully, and get on the market. But at the same time as all that work is going on, there's other companies that are just, talk about Wild West. They're just doing stem cell everything everywhere with absolutely no oversight, so much so that the FDA just can't keep up with them, can't get there to shut them all down quickly enough because there are so many. They talked about unapproved stem cell treatments available in every major city in the US at this point. And I know the FDA has lots of warnings out about this sort of thing too. That kind of was overlapping with some concerns we've had about so-called regenerative medicine products that's actually in the dry eye space at this point. That's something we will be touching on again in the near future. So yeah, while we get excited about the great developments that are happening, we want to also be careful to avoid the ones that aren't doing their homework to make sure they're keeping stuff safe for us. Let's see what else out there. There are a couple new drops that we saw too. This was not like a conference where they have lots of products, certainly not for dry, but there were a couple companies that were there for dry eye. Scope was there, and they had their new, let's see, they had a cold compress, I think,
Yeah.
And then their new MGD drop.
Yeah.
And then Tea Pharmaceutical were there with Evisia, which is now available, I think, in some drugstores. So let's see, anybody else there? Well, I think that is about all we have to share for now. Next week, then, we're going to start to cover our survey. Like I said, some updates on some Zoom groups at that time too. We've got some new dry eye zone resources that will be going live between now and our next live session. We've got some news on the OTC side. We also will have an updated timeline for our new scleral lens website, which we're really excited about. And don't forget to send us your questions that we can dig into in our next session next week at 11:30 Pacific or 2:30 Eastern. Anything else to share on your end, Aidan?
Not really. I mean, I sent a link in the YouTube chat for our calendar, and we have some support groups coming up next week. So yeah, keep a lookout for those.